Certainly. Okay, well, firstly, thank you very much for having me on. Huge privilege. Secondly, I need to point out to both yourselves and to anyone watching or listening, I am on a boat. And so if you see the background going up and down, that's totally to be expected. The boat is rocking a little bit. I am currently off the coast of a little island in the southern end of the Caribbean called Grenada, where I have been hiding out for the summer months, hopefully avoiding the hurricanes. But yeah, I live on this boat. It's called Scout, and it's kind of a fun lifestyle, sailing around warm parts of the world and writing software when I can. So anyway, that's the context for the horizon going up and down in the background. Prior to this marine life, I was an engineering director at Meta. So I was at Facebook and then Meta for just over 10 years. And I worked on a whole bunch of different things there, including running the open source program, working on a bunch of developer infrastructure projects, which obviously very relevant for the listeners to this podcast, data infrastructure, and I even worked on Portal, which was the company's smart speaker, for a couple of years. So yeah, I did a bunch of interesting things at Meta. And prior to that, yeah, a whole host of different startups and various bits and pieces, mostly in the mobile arena, stretching way back to pre-iPhone days. But anyway, that's a whole other podcast, probably.
Yeah, so while you were at leading open source at Facebook, that was like a very pivotal time for Facebook, I think. Lots and lots of different open source technologies that we all use today and have influenced what we use today were created during that time. What projects did you help steward or get out, or what were you involved with during that time?
Probably hundreds in the end, many of which have not gone on to become huge successes, but a few of them, like React and React Native and PyTorch, obviously did. So yeah, just a little bit of a background to this. I worked on that program for about 4 years, from 2013, I would say, through to about 2017. Historically, Facebook at the time had done a bunch of open source, but generally not done it very well, right? It had launched things, whether it was Cassandra or some of its data infrastructure, and it kind of threw it over the wall and forgot all about it, and it really got into a bad state. And I felt like when I took the program over, the first thing to do was try to get that back under control. And then, as we launched new things, do them with a bit more structure, a little bit more discipline, making sure we kept them alive and listened to the community. And yeah, React was one of the very first projects that I was sort of peripherally involved with, and I say peripherally because ultimately, the honors go to the engineering team that worked super hard on React for years and years, or obviously still are. But I was there, I guess, to sort of help get it out there, cheerlead it. We built a bunch of internal tooling to make sure that we could synchronize the repos between GitHub and the internal mono repo, so that what you were seeing on GitHub was always what was running on master if you viewed source in facebook.com. And that kind of support system for making sure these projects were run well. We put a bunch of instrumentation around the projects as well, so that people could, teams internally could make sure they were staying on top of their issues and pull requests and stuff like that. But yeah, it was like a huge eye-opening experience seeing something like React just go stratospheric. It was this internal system that even internally didn't get a win immediately. It took a little while for people to start using it internally. I'm sure you've seen the React documentary for the kind of the inner story there, but obviously once people started twigging, it was very exciting to see it take off. And we used a lot of what we learned from React on subsequent projects. What's that playbook for beginning a community and watching it, nurturing it, helping it to grow. What are the different kind of phases of an open source project life cycle that you can sort of chaperone these projects through, hopefully onto ultimate success? And yeah, things like PyTorch, I guess, followed some of that playbook, and that itself has been successful. And since I've left, there's obviously Llama and Llama 2, which are a little different, but still hopefully building on some of the learnings that we had from those early days.
Yeah, that's all super exciting. Yeah, like Andrew said, incredibly pivotal for especially the front-end ecosystems. Mm-hmm. How did that time sort of shape your views on open source software?
Well, obviously deeply, since I was thinking about it pretty much 24 hours a day. But a lot of things did surprise me. I think when I first you sort of went into that gig. Oh, by the way, I wasn't sort of asked to work on open source. It was kind of a cool thing at the time. Within Facebook, we had this saying, nothing at Facebook is someone else's problem, and I could see that open source was kind of a bit derelict and needed help. So I just put my hand up and I'll jump in and see if I can help it. But one of the things I think I naively thought was like the big win for the company is going to be that like external developers are going to like commit code and like that's cheaper than hiring people. It was like that wasn't anything to do with the value that we got out of the project in the end. Like we did get external contributions, which was awesome, and obviously as the community grew, more and more of that. But that was not the big value that came from running this program. The biggest value was really just sort of helping kickstart our engineering brand, especially in front end. So I don't know if you can recall what the Facebook engineering brand was like in 2012, but it was basically, it's a bunch of kids in a dormitory hacking on PHP and they don't know what they're doing, which wasn't quite true. And certainly there was no reputation for like front end excellence, and we just had trouble hiring people. Like we couldn't get JavaScript luminaries or anybody really in the door to kind of stick at the company and work on it. And so Tom Aquino, who was the engineering manager on React at the time, like really wanted to use React as a showcase for the quality of Facebook engineering and use it as a way to encourage more talented front-end engineers to come and work at the company and not be embarrassed. And so React, maybe we overdid that because I think at the beginning people didn't understand React. They thought like, what are they doing? Like this is some kind of crazy out there thing. But I think after it started to sink in what it was, people began to realize, maybe these aren't just, dormitory kids hacking on PHP. Like maybe they do have some unique problems to solve and maybe they do have some unique solutions to it. And yeah, it really sort of started helping people to see Meta as a reputable engineering brand, alongside all the back-end work that was happening as well, and then in time, machine learning. And I have to be honest, like the big benefit that accrues over time is that that's just a recruiting bonanza, right? Because people now want to come and work with the people that are building these things, and they see our code and they know what it looks like, and rather than going into this opaque environment, they know what they're letting themselves in for, and maybe they're inspired to come and join the company. And I think certainly on the JavaScript side, didn't really look back for a very long time, right? It was a lot of talented people that we were able to bring in and help work on these problems. So yeah, that was that. I guess that was my eye-opening moment. The value to the company ultimately was the brand, the innovation that we were able to drive through it, and then recruiting in time.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear. I'm definitely thankful for what you guys have done, and it's cool to see how it's like evolved. Like React has like kind of broken the barrier of the Facebook walls, and now is like a multi-company effort, which is like, it's really cool to see the technology mature like that.
Yeah, so that was another thing that we spent a lot of time thinking about, really for every major project. What is its life cycle, right? It starts off. It's not fully formed when you open source a thing, right? It's still embryonic, and we had a policy that it had to be something we were using internally, right? We weren't allowing people to just throw over intern projects over the wall. Like there had to be things that we were using in production, but yeah, sometimes they're still pretty young. We don't know whether the community will get it, but then over time it grows, it evolves, and like at some point, it reaches a level of maturity. Maybe it's too big for the company to from a governance or a stewardship point of view. And then what do? Do you give it to the Apache Foundation, or do you sort of create some working group or committee of other companies, in different people who are invested in the project? Like there are various paths for where these things go, and of course sometimes the project doesn't go anywhere and you just kind of have to sunset it and archive it. But that whole life cycle of an open source project is super interesting. And I've been obviously tracking what's happened to React over the last couple of years, and it really seems to have burst the boundaries of being stewarded by Meta alone, and getting out there without, I think, fingers crossed, without it suddenly becoming a big kind of bureaucratic process-oriented thing. Like hopefully it's still able to keep some of its fleet of foot in terms of the innovation that's happening there, and react to the whatever competitive challenges that it sees, right? Fulfilling the needs that people have.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been really amazing to watch it, go from in the early days being this thing people are like, what is this? Like, what is JSX? What are you trying to do here? To now it is sort of a de facto industry standard. Like most of the time people are pulling for this, and it's an interesting journey for sure. It's like very compelling. So I think y'all made a lot of really good decisions in those early days for sure. So before we moved on to talk about other things, you did mention that you worked on Portal a little bit. Portal was like a really interesting device, I think. So what part of that product did you actually work on?
Right. Okay. So this is also a pretty interesting story. It kind of gives you an insight into how Facebook engineering culture works. So I was an engineering manager at the time. I was running a bunch of DevTools teams. We had an IDE team. We had a build system team. And I suddenly kind of woke up one morning and like, I want to go back to writing more code. Like I want to go and become an engineer again. And basically wanted to, challenge myself, maybe go and work on a consumer product, switch a few things up. And this opportunity came along for what at the time was a very secretive team within the company. They were called Building 8, and they were working on like secret hardware and like brain-machine interfaces and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, wow, that sounds awesome. So basically went and switched up almost everything about my career overnight. So I went from being a manager to being an individual contributing engineer. I went from working on infrastructure to working on a product. I went from working on software to working on hardware. And suddenly I'm in this kind of crazy R&D environment. But within a couple of weeks, kind of found my feet, learned a bit of Android, which was probably what we were going to be building this thing on, and sort of rolled up my sleeves and started figuring out what we could do. And the idea was really pretty fuzzy at first. It's like, how do we make it more seamless to stay connected with your family, rather than the effort of having to get out your phone and find someone in the address book. Like, what if you just want to chat to a family member whilst you're making your breakfast or whatever? And so the idea of this smart speaker with a screen was born. And then there was a machine learning team that had gone off and discovered they could do pose tracking live, and so we put that in as well, so that as you're walking around the kitchen it kind of zooms in and follows you around. And it was a kind of cool tech in a way, looking for a problem to solve at first. But then the smart speaker market started picking up. So Google had a product and Amazon had a product, and we're like, whoa, actually maybe this is a thing. And if we can bring some of the magic of like Facebook's assets, like Messenger and some of the Facebook content and WhatsApp, ultimately, if we can bring those to this device as well, then that's a fairly compelling package. And so my responsibility ultimately was to work on these kind of content integrations. So how can we get news feed into Portal? How can we get third parties like Spotify? How can we get the Spotify player onto this device? How can we hook into all of the other Facebook properties alongside the calling experience? So you could make these face-to-face calls, but then you could also share in, let's say, a Facebook Watch video, right, and watch together and stuff like that. So I built a bunch of the sort of the app platform, I guess you would say, for all these third-party or second-party content sources. And it was wild. Obviously, one of the big headwinds that the company was against was the fact that this was a camera with the Facebook logo right next to it, so people were a little, unnerved, I think, by the sort of privacy implications. As a matter of fact, the privacy was done really well. It was kind of something we'd been thinking about right from the start. But I think that the magic there was always going to be how could we marry the Facebook portfolio of content and services into this device so that it was more than just a dumb smart speaker, of which there were many at that point. So that was my brief, was to try to make it come alive. And I think we got there. Obviously, a year or two after we launched, we went into lockdown and pandemic, and the sales of this thing just exploded because all of a sudden that was basically the only way that people could ambiently stay in touch with each other. And we pivoted towards doing enterprise, so that you could use it as basically a remote VC system for people working from home. And that was a big boost to it. So yeah, in the end, it was a successful project. I mean, I think in the most recent round of kind of cost cutting, it's probably not continuing in its full form. But it was an awesome project to work on. And like I said, I just got to write some code, so that was